Hi, warm greetings to all of you. Welcome to BION, the channel that shares knowledge on comprehensive personal development through books. In the year 1857, the writer Gustave Flaubert faced a dramatic court prosecution. The cause, his newly published novel, Madame Bovary. The book was accused of being an offense against public morality and religion in France. Following a passionate defense by his lawyer, Flaubert was ultimately acquitted of all charges. This legal battle created an unprecedented stir among the public, sparking immense curiosity and drawing countless people to read his novel. As a result, Madame Bovary quickly soared to the top of the bestseller lists for the year. Its influence has endured for centuries. As recently as 2007, it was ranked second on Time. Magazine's lists of the top 10 greatest works of all time. Even today, many people turn to its story as a powerful cautionary tale and a profound reminder for their own lives. The central figure of the novel is Emma, who becomes known as Madame Bovary after marrying Dr. Charles Bovary, a devoted husband who loves her unconditionally. However, Emma feels trapped in her provincial life and constantly yearns for a more passionate, idealized, and romantic existence. This relentless desire leads her into two destructive affairs. While she is married, in her pursuit of this fantasy, she also accumulates overwhelming debts. Eventually, finding herself with no way out of her desperate situation, she buys arsenic and tragically ends her own life. Emma's story is a deeply sorrowful tragedy, but it also carries a critical warning for all of us. Very often, the misfortune we experience in life is hidden within the very happiness we are so desperately chasing. It suggests that we may already possess happiness but fail to recognize, cherish, and preserve it. Today, BION would like to share with you a message inspired by this timeless classic, titled, "Don't Live in Happiness While Still Searching for Happiness," through the lens of the novel, Madame Bovary. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. Is this statement truly accurate? Many believe that enduring hardship automatically leads to growth and resilience, but reality is far more complex. Often, what doesn't kill you doesn't make you stronger. It simply leaves you with deep, lasting scars. Imagine a young sapling trying to grow in the shadow of a colossal boulder. Day after day, it strains towards the sliver of light it can see. Its trunk, twisting and contorting. It survives, yes, but it doesn't grow straight and tall like its peers in the open field. Instead, it becomes gnarled and misshapen, a testament to its struggle. It is alive, but it is not thriving. Its form is a permanent record of the pressure it endured. This is the reality for many who face profound adversity. Trauma doesn't always forge a hero. More often, it creates a survivor burdened by their past. Think of a soldier returning from the battlefield. He may have escaped physical death, but he brings the war home with him. The sounds of explosions echo in the quiet of the night, and the faces of fallen comrades appear in his dreams. He is hyper-vigilant, seeing threats where none exist. His relationships suffer because the part of him that knew trust and safety was left behind on foreign soil. He is stronger in his ability to endure, perhaps. But is he a stronger person? Or is he a fractured version of his former self, forever defined by the horrors he witnessed? His survival came at the cost of his peace. Consider the child who grows up in a home filled with neglect and conflict. They learn to be self-reliant from a young age, not as a virtue, but as a necessity for survival. They become adept at reading moods and anticipating danger, skills that serve them well in a chaotic environment. But when they enter the world as adults, these same survival mechanisms become liabilities. They struggle to form healthy attachments, perpetually waiting for the other shoe to drop. They may mistake stability for boredom and kindness for a trap. They survived their childhood, but the experience hollowed them out, leaving a void where a foundation of security should be. The strength they developed is a shield, but a shield can also be a cage, isolating them from the very connection they crave. This narrative of strength through suffering is a convenient way for society to look away from pain. It absolves us of the responsibility to create a world with less suffering. We praise the resilience of those who overcome poverty, abuse, or systemic injustice, turning their struggle into an inspirational tale. We celebrate the single mother working 3 jobs to feed her children as a symbol of strength, rather than questioning the economic system that makes her hardship necessary. We admire the individual who triumphs over a debilitating illness, focusing on their personal will rather than advocating for better healthcare and support systems. By romanticizing their struggle, we ignore our collective failure to prevent it. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who coined the phrase, was not offering a simple platitude. He was speaking of a specific kind of spiritual and intellectual overcoming, a process of integrating pain into a larger, more meaningful existence. But for most, trauma is not a philosophical exercise. It is a brutal, visceral experience that reshapes the brain and nervous system. It is a heavy cloak that, once worn, can never be fully removed. The individual may learn to carry its weight with grace, but they are never again unburdened. True strength is not merely the ability to withstand blows. It is the capacity to remain open, to love, to trust, and to feel joy, even after being hurt. Often, the most profound strength is demonstrated not by those who have been hardened by life, but by those who have managed to preserve their softness despite it. It is seen in the person who, having been betrayed, chooses to trust again. It is in the heart that, after being broken, dares to love once more. This is a far more difficult and courageous act than simply developing a thicker skin. So, let us be cautious with our adages. What doesn't kill you can leave you wounded, fearful, and diminished. It can steal your joy and your ability to connect with others. While some may find a way to transform their pain into a source of profound wisdom and empathy, this is not a guaranteed outcome. It is a difficult, often lifelong, journey that requires immense support, resources, and luck. Instead of celebrating survival, perhaps we should focus on creating a world where fewer people have to survive in the first place, because the greatest strength is not found in enduring a life of hardship. It is found in having the freedom to live a life where such endurance is not required. And this, in fact, is a goal worth striving for. The happiness we so blindly chase often turns out to be nothing more than a fleeting illusion. Seeing his wife, Emma, constantly disheartened, Charles decided to change their surroundings and moved the family to another place. There, Emma met a young man named Leon, talented and graceful. Leon loved music, painting, and literature. He and Emma found themselves kindred spirits, often conversing with mutual understanding and subtle feelings. Secretly delighted, Emma believed she had finally found her soulmate, but Leon, driven by his ambitions for the future, eventually left for Paris, turning his back on her. Just as Emma thought her life was finally brightening after the rain, the sky grew cloudy once more. Then came Rodolphe, a 34-year-old wealthy, generous, and experienced landowner. He was immediately captivated by Emma's beauty, but also saw through her shallowness and vanity. Rodolphe began whispering sweet words into her ears, playing his game of seduction with practiced skill, waiting patiently until she fell into his net. Emma, naive and yearning, soon gave in. They were drawn together, lamenting why fate hadn't brought them together earlier. Emma indulged in the intoxicating thrill of a secret affair, yet it wasn't enough for her. She suggested to Rodolphe that they run away together. He pretended to agree, but repeatedly postponed their escape. In the end, on the very day of their planned departure, he left only a farewell letter and vanished without a trace. Emma, devastated, fell gravely ill and yet her husband Charles still cared for her with unwavering devotion. Emma's heart was always longing for a passionate love to soften her barren soul. She thought she had found it first with Leon, then with Rodolphe. Each time, she believed she had grasped true love, but each time it turned out to be nothing more than a fleeting illusion. If her affair with Leon was like a raindrop sliding off a lotus leaf, then with Rodolphe she had gambled everything. He appeared to be the ideal companion. Fate had granted her understanding her heart, generous with his wealth. For him, she was willing to burn every bridge, abandon her husband and child. But to a seasoned player like Rodolphe, it was nothing more than a calculated game. And when the game lost its thrill, he could withdraw easily, without the slightest regret. In real life, how many people are just like Emma? They carry illusions and expectations of finding someone better than their current partner. That ideal spouse must be tall, radiant, with a prestigious career and a high salary. For women, he must earn plenty, so that she may spend freely, while also being gentle and patient enough to tolerate her whims and intuitively understand her heart without her speaking a word. For men, the ideal woman must be beautiful, charming, and well-dressed to preserve his pride, while also being domestic, obedient, and endlessly admiring of him. But how could such perfect beings exist? Many young people today claim they cannot marry because they haven't met the right person. But the right person in their imagination is simply a 100% perfect partner. A famous host once said, "On this earth, no one is perfectly suited for you. If someone appears to be, they are most likely manipulating you. If you suddenly meet someone who seems flawless and perfectly matched, be cautious. No one like that exists without hidden intentions." Chasing such unrealistic illusions is no different from trying to catch the moon's reflection in water, pluck the stars from the sky, or grasp a mirage in the desert. Even if you exhaust yourself in pursuit of this so-called perfection, in the end, it will only be a vain dream, because true happiness does not come from someone else being flawless, nor from all our expectations being met. It comes from our own growth and understanding, from cherishing what we already have. The most beautiful and meaningful love is not about passively waiting for destiny to deliver, but about the mutual effort of two hearts striving to understand each other. Instead of endlessly searching outside and placing unrealistic hopes on others, we must return to ourselves, learning to see life with gratitude and positivity. When you stop setting impossible standards and begin nurturing values within, you'll realize that happiness has always been in your hands. All it takes is an open heart to embrace it. If one does not stop in time, they will inevitably push themselves into a bottomless abyss. Steve Jobs, filled with ambition and vision, relentlessly pursued perfection. But in his early years, this drive alienated those around him. Just when he seemed poised for greatness, his own board ousted him from Apple, the company he... For a time, he was lost, a brilliant mind exiled from his own creation. But fate had other plans. Instead of surrendering to defeat, he embarked on a new journey, founding Next and Pixar. This period of exile wasn't a punishment, but a crucible. It was during this time that he began to understand a deeper truth. True greatness is unjust about external success. It starts from within. As time passed, this realization slowly took root in his heart. Steve, desperate to reclaim his legacy, didn't just focus on building better products. He started rebuilding himself. Influenced by his earlier failures and his deep interest in Zen Buddhism, he had already begun to form a new philosophy of simplicity and focus. With the lessons learned at Next and the groundbreaking success of Pixar, his internal transformation only deepened. He wasn't just chasing market share. He was pursuing a profound integration of technology and humanity, a vision that could only come from a place of inner clarity. When he ran out of options in his exile, he didn't borrow or scheme in the traditional sense. Instead, he invested his entire being into his new ventures, cultivating a resilience that would later define his iconic comeback. Eventually, a call arrived, not a summons for debt, but an invitation to return to a struggling Apple. The company was just 90 days from bankruptcy, its legacy on the verge of being erased. Terrified by the looming disaster that threatened to swallow his life's work, Steve didn't turn to others for a quick fix. Instead, he looked inward, drawing upon the wisdom he had cultivated during his years away. He returned to Apple not just as a leader, but as a visionary who had mastered himself. He immediately simplified the product line, cut wasteful projects, and instilled a new culture of excellence and focus. In despair, the old Apple had been flailing, but with Steve's return, it found its soul again. He discovered that the company's real problem was not a lack of talent, but a lack of a unifying spirit. Instead of blaming the past, he channeled his energy into creating a future, inspiring his team with a vision of making tools that would change the world. The very next year, Apple launched the iMac, and its renaissance began. The home that was once in ruin was rebuilt, stronger than ever, and its employees, once demoralized, were now part of a historic resurgence. In this triumphant story, Steve Jobs blindly chased perfection in his youth, willing to burn bridges for his vision, and in the process, lost the company he loved. But in the end, when disaster struck, it was his internal transformation that saved him. The truth is, when ambition is pursued only for selfish ego and external validation, the inevitable result is a painful lesson. Consumed by his own brilliance, Steve had been given a harsh chance by fate to wake up and they took Italiano. The result was not a punishment, but a rebirth, with the rewards falling upon the entire world. In life, everyone has ambitions, big or small. Sometimes they can be a driving force to move forward, but they must always be tempered by wisdom, by self. If ambition overwhelms humanity, if one blindly pushes forward without principles and without stopping to transform oneself, the outcome will always be disaster. You won't just destroy your career, you will also harm those who believe in you. Lao Tzu once said, "Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. Power can shape the world only when properly controlled. But if left to rage without restraint, it leaves behind nothing but chaos and regret." Thus, life's lesson is this. We must learn to recognize our own egos, our own ambitions and desires. Then, we must stop at the right time, transform them, and master ourselves. Only by doing so can we find balance and build greatness that lasts, whether in our work or in our relationships. Once you overcome this lesson, you will hold the key to a new doorway, one that opens to a life of impact, fulfillment, and deep meaning. Steve Jobs once had a revolutionary company and a team that followed him, but he failed to lead with empathy, chasing a flawed vision of success to satisfy his own ego. In the end, he lost not only his position, but his purpose. The author Walter Isaacson wrote of his journey. He was not a model boss or a model human being, tidily packaged for emulation. But in truth, Steve Jobs' early story is all of us. For we too often believe that life is full of grand ambitions and the endless pursuit of external glory, while forgetting all too easily to first build the foundation of greatness within ourselves. The best way to raise children is to let them be independent. The renowned educator Maria Montessori once said, "Never help a child with a task at which he feels he can succeed." This simple yet profound statement encapsulates a crucial aspect of parenting. Fostering independence is one of the greatest gifts we can give our children. True growth for a child does not come from a life where every path is smooth and every obstacle is removed by their parents. Instead, it blossoms from the challenges they face, the problems they solve on their own, and the small victories they achieve through their own efforts. Empowering children to be independent is about trusting them and respecting their capabilities. It's about stepping back and allowing them to tie their own shoes, even if it takes 10 minutes. It's about letting them make their own safe mistakes and learn from the natural consequences, rather than shielding them from every potential stumble. This process builds not just practical skills, but also self-confidence, resilience, and a powerful sense of self. When we do everything for them, we are silently telling them, "You are not capable." But when we let them try, fail, and try again, we are showing them that we believe in their strength and potential. So, let's cherish their journey of self-discovery. Please do, and hold their hands so tightly that you prevent them from learning how to walk on their own 2 feet. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If this video has been helpful, please share it with those who may need it. And don't forget to give me a like, hit the subscribe button, and turn on the notification bell to catch the latest videos each week. Once again, thank you, and see you in the next video.